egg gratin is a fantastic dish to not only have for breakfast, but it's also fantastic for lunch and for dinner. I love it because it's super easy to do and because there's two very important techniques that I'm going to show you. First technique is poaching eggs, and I'm going to show you how to do the king of all sauces, white sauce, which is called bechamel. Let's get onto the sauce first because it will hold its shape. So always remember with a white sauce, it's even amounts of butter to flour to make a roux. So this is 25 grams of butter. We'll melt that in a pot. And we want that on a medium to high heat, but be careful because you don't want to burn it. And we want to make sure that it just starts to foam before we add our flour. Now we need 25 grams of plain flour. Now there's many different varieties of eggs gratin. You can keep it really classic by adding some spinach. Today I'm going to use a nice generous amount of kale, and you can also do it with mushrooms. Even some salmon is fantastic. So that's the 25 grams of flour in there, just plain flour. And then we'll use a whisk to stir this. At this stage it's called a roux. And we do want to cook off that flour so we don't get that raw flavour from it. So we'll give that about 30 seconds. And now we can start adding the milk. Now it's always a good idea when you're making a bechamel to warm up the milk. It just gives you more control over the sauce and ensures that it thickens up and that there's not too many lumps in the sauce. So 2 cups of milk and gradually add it at the beginning. So a little bit to start with. Whisk it and get rid of all of those little lumps. And then we'll add a little bit more. Again, you'll see all these lumps form. That's okay. Start to mix it again. And then once you see it start to loosen up a little bit, then you can place it back on the heat and add the rest of the milk. Now we're going to whisk this and cook it until it starts to boil. It should be the consistency of thickened cream. Okay, this sauce has thickened up nicely. I'm just going to show you the consistency with a spoon, just like that. Now at this stage it's a very plain sauce, so we need to jazz it up with some flavours. A little bit of parmesan, a small handful. We're going to turn the heat off now. Also some cheddar cheese. And then to give it a little bit of piquancy, I love the addition of some Dijon mustard. So a good tablespoon of Dijon mustard in there. Now we'll add some nutmeg. And this is when we can add our kale. Now this is about 4 leaves of kale or a small bunch of kale. I've finely chopped it and I'll just whisk in that cheese first. And while this sauce is still hot, we'll add our kale and it'll start to wilt away. Now I don't want to wilt it too much, I just want to heat it up. It's also going to go into the oven to cook a second time, so it will warm through there again. When you're cooking with kale, make sure you take the stalk out too, because that's not very palatable. Now we'll take that whisk out and just with our little spoon, we'll fold through that kale. Last thing I need to add to this sauce is a pinch of salt, and just a small pinch because the cheese is salty, and a good crack of pepper. Now for the poached eggs. There's no secret when it comes to poaching eggs. The best poached eggs are the freshest eggs, so please get the freshest eggs. Also, you need good quality free-range eggs. These are my Sunny Queen free-range eggs. I like to work with 1 egg at a time when I'm poaching. Carefully crack it into a bowl. Don't break the yolk. And the fresher the egg, the easier it is to crack, and also the yolk won't break up. And over here, I've got a big pot of water. It's been boiling. I like to use a big pot, particularly if you're going to cook more than 2 eggs. The more space there is, the easier it is for you to control the poaching. And some vinegar, so white vinegar into the pot, and then put that onto a simmer. Now, some people put salt in the water. I don't think you should put salt at all, because what happens is it breaks down the protein in the egg. We don't want that because it's going to make the egg white runny. We want this to hold its shape. So now we can add them, and you'll see that egg white is just going to wrap around that yolk. All right, I'm going to cook a few more of these, and then we can start putting this together. Now these eggs have been poaching for about 2 minutes. Usually if you're going to cook poached eggs and serve them on toast, you'd cook them for about 3 minutes. But I want them to be just a little underdone because I'm going to place these under the grill to cook a little further. Now there's one thing that I need to add to my sauce to finish it off. Because it has cooled down a little bit, I'm now adding some ham. So a few slices of double smoked ham, and then we're just going to roughly chop it so we've got little speckles of ham throughout the white sauce. Like I said at the beginning, if you didn't want to use ham, you could use some salmon. Hot smoked salmon or cold smoked salmon is fantastic. And now we can start adding this mixture to our ramekins, 2 medium-sized ramekins, generous amount of our kale sauce, making sure you leave at least a third of it because we want to put a little bit more on the top. And now we want to nestle in these soft poached eggs. So just pressing down very gently so it sits in there nicely. Now I haven't seasoned these eggs, we didn't season the water, so it's a good idea to add a little pinch of salt to the eggs, just a small amount. And then we're going to top this with the rest of this sauce. I've reserved a little bit of that cheese that we added before, and you really only need such a small amount. It's already a very rich dish. So I've preheated the oven. It's on the grill element, and these are going to take 2 to 3 minutes. Just keep an eye on it because it is a grill. Once they're golden brown, they're ready to go. Okay, they look fantastic, and with something like this, you make sure everyone's at the table so you can eat them immediately while they're still piping hot. Place that on a little plate, and then, this is my favourite part, digging in to see that gorgeous egg yolk. Oh, look at that. Creamy egg yolk with a beautiful white sauce. That is my ultimate breakfast, or lunch, or dinner in a flash. That is so yummy.